Our next guest has charted his journey from the haunting shadows of self-doubt to the radiant self-light discovery, all through the rhythmic verses of hip-hop and the powerful prose of a poet. How the Boogeyman Became a Poet is the debut young adult memoir that speaks to both the hearts of teens and the seasoned souls of adults. Let's welcome poet, writer, and hip-hop educator. We've got Tony Keith Jr.
Hey, what's up, Sacramento?
Hey, we're happy you could join us. We got the shout out from the beginning. I have to ask, how the Boogeyman Became a Poet is a very personal story of the challenges you face coming of age as a young closeted gay Black teen and being the first in your family to attend college. I imagine this took quite a bit of courage to share. What were the challenges of writing your story as a young adult book in verses?
Oh wow, yeah, it was. So the first thing that pops in mind is, vulnerability. It's absolutely a very, very vulnerable experience, exposing the poems that I wrote to myself as a kid, as a way to just sort of wrestle with my emotions of being sad and angry and confused about my world, about not knowing how I'm gonna get to college, about thinking I'm gay but not really sure, and growing up poor and trying to figure out how am I gonna like live this life. And so, the poems that I wrote to myself, they're photographed hard copies of them in the book. And so readers were able to see what I wrote to myself, and no one, not even my parents, cousins, close friends, have ever seen a lot of these poems. And so it is very vulnerable, but also freeing. And that's the thing, it's the balance. It's vulnerable, but it's also freeing because I'm like, I'm so glad I got this out. And also hoping that readers will be able to find parts of themselves in the story too, because aren't we all dealing with some sort of identity crisis at some point, right?
Definitely. And poetry, it's like the heartbeat of emotions. It's a way people can creatively express themselves. When did you first feel its rhythm and realize it was your chosen language for expression?
I'm so blessed to have been brought up in a family and a community that always encouraged me to use my written and spoken words. I write in the book about how the first poem I wrote was in third grade. It was called Seasons, and it was something like all the leaves on the ground, red, yellow, green, and brown, something, something. And my teacher was so excited about it, she stapled it to the bulletin board, outside the classroom door. And then I was invited to MC an event for my principal. And I write about that in the book because as early as a kid, people just sort of knew that I had this thing that I came into the world with. And my grandfather nicknamed me Mr. Guest Speaker, but like I was always sort of encouraged as a kid to write and speak.
And as an educator for teens, did you envision Boogeyman as a guiding star for young hearts, or did it come from a different spark of inspiration?
Yeah, there's a long story to this, but I was at an event where there was a book signing for one of my dear friends, Jason Reynolds. Shout out to Jay. And a young man gets out of line with his, I believe, his mother, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Where's your book?" And this was about in 2019, and I said, "I don't have a book. I published on the page," and I didn't realize, but in that moment, I was like, I wonder if this little boy might be thinking about some of the things I was thinking about, and maybe his mom knows too. And maybe if there was a book for him, a book for her, and then it was like, oh, maybe if there's a book for me, like, wait a minute, I need to write this book because I got to get free of some things for myself. So when I wrote How the Boogeyman Became a Poet, I really wrote it, how did the boogeyman become a poet? I wrote it so I could figure out how did I come to be this free Black man in his 40s who's now gay and married and a poet for a living, you know?
I love hearing the inspiration for that. And you've championed the power of spoken word to liberate. How does poetry, in your eyes, become the superhero for those who've been marginalized?
My gosh, the first thing that immediately comes to mind is language and voice. There's something to be said about having a voice on the page, right? And so when I think about my writing in this book, the reason why it's written in verse is there's rhythm, there's rhyme. I did that on purpose. That is an ancestral thing. I'm pretty sure, again, enslaved Africans had Negro spirituals with poems, right? And so I'm like, yo, there's messages of freedom embedded in this. And so I think so much about being able to have that voice on the page, but then that same voice on the stage, being able to project out to an audience, feelings and joy and triumph and love and stories about, finding oneself and becoming healthy and happy. Like that is the true power there. So it's about voice, it's advocacy.
And Tony, I have to ask, if you had a time traveling machine that could deliver Boogeyman to your younger self, how do you think it would have impacted you?
Oh, wow. If I got this book in 1999 from when this book takes place, even before that, first thing that I would have realized is, oh, I am a human being. I belong. My story does matter. I'm connected to a greater purpose. Like I would not have internalized racism. I would not have internalized homophobia. I would not have internalized a poverty mindset.
Mhm.
Like I would have been able to firmly believe that, like it would have been healing. It would have been joy. It would have been love at its finest. And I believe that all readers will be able to get some element of that, even if you're not black or gay, right? But like if you understand what it's like to try to figure yourself out in a world that may not understand you, there's something to it for you too.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time to write this, and I'm excited for our viewers to learn more about it so that they can take a piece of this with them as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and you can find Tony Keith's How the Boogeyman Became a Poet wherever books are sold.